You convert another pub again?
It's a fair question, Rav. What I would say is that
in this video, I met with my flatmate from the University of Birmingham who is in the process of converting a pub into apartment. Many pubs tend to sit in good locations, which make them good projects to be converted into HMOs or even apartments. Let's get into this interview. Can you take us through the pub conversion? So what attracted you to this pub?
we were offered a pub to purchase in 2017. It was called the Glenmore Arms and it was in Plumstead, South East London. It had planning to convert the upper parts, this is the first floor and the loft, into 5 apartments. Ground floor pub had been closed down for nearly 2 years at that point. We thought, yes, there would be a strong argument to also apply for planning permission on the ground floor to convert that into extra residential units. So we purchased it thinking there was potentially a planning uplift angle there on the ground floor.
Sure.
We purchased it for £870,000. The overall development plus the cost of the planning and construction of the ground floor is going to cost about an extra, in total, £550,000. What's really been difficult on this project is how long it's taken to get planning for the ground floor. Initially, we had to prove to the planning officers that it isn't viable as a pub. It then had to go to committee. It was clear from the very beginning that this committee were not interested in letting us have planning permission for the conversion of the pub into residential. We went through an appeal with the planning inspectorate and we secured planning after about a year's worth of an appeal.
Sure.
It was a massive relief, and it meant that we could then subsequently sell the upper units, as well as now get on with the construction of the ground floor unit.
Would you convert another pub again?
It's a fair question. So I would never say never, but would I buy one unconditionally? Probably not. Pubs can be great development sites, depending on how progressive the council is.
Yeah.
The problem with this one is that we bought it, we were only able to buy it unconditionally.
In terms of the actual development, so the refurbishment.
Yes.
Any issues there?
We've definitely had issues with dealing with the utility companies, dealing with building control when you're converting an existing building into residential. Dealing with contractors is always a challenge. Development is not an easy industry. I wouldn't want to put anyone off going into development. What I would say is don't believe any of the trainers out there who just tell you that it's really easy to get into development and you can make loads of money. What I would say is that partner up with people who are very experienced and see what you can offer to them rather than initially trying to do it yourself without any of that experience.
Was there a period of time that they wanted you to market the pub for?
Yeah, so official planning policy is, you have to market it for 2 years and show that it's viable. Okay. And by the time we got to planning committee, it had been well over 2 years that the pub had been vacant and marketed. And, it wasn't just marketed by anyone. We had firms like Savills, Christie & Co, Pride, real big players in the commercial property.
Were there any inquiries?
There were no inquiries from anyone seriously interested in running as a pub during the first 2 years. After 2 years, there were a couple of inquiries from people who wanted it on almost like a no obligation basis. Unfortunately, the planning committee members at Greenwich Council just didn't really buy that.
They actually come on site or not?
They came on site and it was clear that they didn't believe that this pub was not viable, that it had been marketed effectively.
Did you face any challenges over COVID?
Yeah, actually, it's a fair question. We had a initial building team who, during COVID, decided to go back home. I would say the cost of construction materials and the availability of builders has definitely been a challenge.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Puneet. The big takeaway for me was to try and purchase subject to planning. However, this is easy to say, but in reality, a lot of projects I've seen generally tend to go to best and final offers, and people usually tend to offer on these unconditionally. So ultimately, it depends on your risk appetite.